GamerPoets strives to create the most informative and easy-to-navigate tutorials available, driven by viewer feedback and contribution. What some would do in multiple videos, we do in one. Since the videos are packed full of so much information, a lot of which the general viewer may not even care to know, navigation is provided to accommodate the individual as much as possible. Navigation is appropriately labeled within the sidebar via annotations to each major section. Occasionally, if and when it's needed, a sliding tray will drop down from the top right of the user interface. This has been implemented to allow viewers to skip over information that does not pertain to them in a progressive manner without having to check the video description or without having to guess while dragging on the timeline. However, the video description does provide navigation to every section of the tutorial step by step, and I recommend that it be utilized on subsequent viewings. Finally, video platforms such as YouTube are subject to change. The GamerPoets video interface has been organized in a way that hopes to weather future amendments within the platform. Though, the older this video gets, the more potential there is for the annotations to be hindered. System requirements. Fallout 3 requires Windows XP, Vista, or later to function. This guide is going to assume that you are using Windows 7 or later. CPU. The minimum vanilla game requirement is a 2.4 GHz Intel Pentium 4 or equivalent processor. The recommended minimum for modding is an i5 processor, which should be more than good enough to mod Fallout 3. Ideally, a good i7 will alleviate all doubt. System RAM. The minimum vanilla game requirement is 2 GB. The recommended minimum requirement for modders is 8 GB. Ideally, you want to have 16 GB of RAM. The GPU. The minimum vanilla game requirement is a DirectX 9.0C compliant video card with 256 MB of RAM. The recommended minimum for heavy modders is 3 GB of RAM or higher. Ideally, 4 GB is what you would like to have. Monitor resolution. The minimum requirement is 1366 by 768. The recommended minimum is 1920 by 1080. Disk space. The minimum requirement is 7 GB of free HDD space. The recommended minimum for modders is 30 GB of free HDD space. Ideally, I would prefer to have a 256 GB solid-state drive or larger and 100 GB of free HDD space for mod archive storage. For those who care to view a more in-depth chart regarding chipsets and graphics cards for use with Fallout 3, visit the Game Debate page. A link is provided in the video description. This tutorial requires a legit and up-to-date version of Fallout 3, version 1.7.0.3. Outdated or stolen copies are not guaranteed to work properly, if at all, when modding your game later on. Windows User Account Control has been known to and proven to interfere with certain modding applications downstream. If Steam is installed to one of the Program Files or Program Files 86 folders, be sure to apply the installation location steps in the following section. If Fallout 3 is already installed and you are searching for a workaround to this issue, view the User Account Control video linked in the description. Apply the steps within to the Fallout 3 folder itself. Option 1. For those who already own Fallout 3 via Steam. Open Steam. Navigate to your library. Right-click Fallout 3. Select Install. Choose Location for Install. Select the location outside of the Program Files and Program Files 86 folders, but be sure to choose a location, not the desktop, on the same drive that the main Steam installation is located on, not an additional Steam library location if you have any created. For reasons yet unknown to me, Fallout 3 does not work properly when installing it to a separate drive. Most likely the Windows Live issue that we will fix later on in this guide, but I'm still uncertain. Option 2. For those yet to purchase Fallout, go to store.steampowered.com. Search for Fallout 3. Select the Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition to acquire all of the DLC. At this point, a lot of popular mods are going to require it. Enter your birth date to continue. Select Add to Cart. Select Purchase for myself. Sign in if you aren't already. Complete the purchase. If the install window does not automatically open after your purchase, open the Steam application. Go to your library, right-click Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition, select Install game. At the install window, choose location for install. Select the location outside of the Program Files and Program Files 86 folders, but again, be sure to choose a location not on your desktop on the same drive that the main Steam installation is located on, not an additional SteamLibrary location if you have any created. Select Next. If you receive a terms window, select I agree. After installation begins, select Finish. Option 3. Installation from disk. The benefit to having the game disk is that the installation will be slightly faster than downloading the game from Steam. Fallout 3 is the last Bethesda game that did not require Steam for it to actually be installed into function. However, at this point, you still may need to log into Steam to finish the installation. Being someone who doesn't own the disk, I can only speculate. Insert the disk into your computer. Push the Windows key plus R to open Run. In the Run window, type the Steam drive letter, /Steam, /Steam.exe, space, -install, space, the DVD drive letter, : Select OK, and follow the prompts. Windows Live. Some files from the Games for Windows Live are needed for Fallout 3 to work. After the basic registry and any file setup section of the guide, we will come back and disable everything that we don't need from Windows Live. Doing things in this order should save some folks from potential headaches, and it is generally a better workflow for all anyways. Navigate to the Windows Live download page. The most recent link is provided in the video description. From the page, select the download button. The GFW Live Setup executable will then download to your system. Run it from its download location, then select Yes to any pop-up windows that appear to install it. After installation is complete, close the window. You do not need to launch it. Basic registry and any file setup. Launch Fallout 3 through Steam, not the Fallout Launcher executable, as it most likely won't work yet. Simply bringing up the Fallout menu will establish all registries and any files. Without doing this, certain modding applications will not work, and neither will the Windows Live disabler in the next section. Select Options. If the Detecting Video Hardware window opens, select OK to default all game values based on your system's capabilities. Graphics Adapter and Resolution. The graphics adapter automatically displays your GPU. Aspect ratio displays the proportional relationship between your monitor's width and height. Resolution. Set to the highest resolution that your monitor can handle. Lower the resolution to trade quality for better performance. Anti-aliasing is directly related to the jagged and crawling lines at the edges of objects. Select 4 samples. The subtle difference between 4 and 8 is not worth the performance impact, and if using an EMB graphical preset, set to Off Best Performance. Anisotropic Filtering directly affects texture clarity that is displayed at an angle on screen. Select 15 samples. 8 samples will provide the slightest of performance gains for a noticeable drop in quality. If using an EMB graphical preset, set to Off Best Performance. Mode. Windowed. If activated, Fallout 3 will be run in a window on the desktop as opposed to utilizing the entire screen. This allows you to maintain a sharp in-game image while running the game lower than your monitor's native resolution. I personally have windowed mode deactivated. Vertical sync. If activated, VSync will cap your maximum FPS to your monitor's refresh rate to avoid screen tearing. Activated or deactivated, VSync is forced on by the game engine, so there's no reason to give this option any attention. I keep vertical sync activated here. Screen effects. Determines the type of lighting effects applied in game. None provides basic lighting, which makes for an acceptable sky image, but leaves the rest of the world appearing flat and washed out, lacking depth and realism. Bloom adds a glow to lighting in an attempt to make it appear more realistic. However, this option is not dynamic, and it makes the sky glow unnaturally bright. HDR, High Dynamic Range, dynamically alters light based on the way that it interacts with various objects and surfaces while taking the player's position into consideration. This option makes the game world much more vivid than without it, and it provides a more realistic contrast between light and darkness. More intense than the other 2 options, but not enough to make the others worth choosing. I have HDR activated. Show all resolutions. When activated, this allows you to view and select all resolution options in the resolution drop-down menu. All of the settings mentioned from here on can be raised, lowered, and or turned off and on to trade quality for performance. Test them for your own system. While modding your game will use more and more resources over time, these settings are a good, middle-of-the-road starting point for everyone. Furthermore, changing any of the settings from here on out within the launcher window will reset your INI files. It is recommended to only use the launcher before modding your game to avoid errors. When you have begun modding, you should edit the INI files directly and avoid the launcher altogether. Using Mod Organizer allows you to avoid these worries. Choosing the low, medium, high, or ultra option will implement a preset of values for all of the options within the Advanced tab. Using Default will reset the options to what they were at the end of the basic registry and INI files section. Open the Advanced section. Detail, Texture Quality. Affects the depth and detail of all textures. Set to high. Radial Blur Quality. Affects the amount of blur during situations such as being stuck in battle. Set to low. Depth of field determines whether or not depth of field will be used in game. DOF can cause a decent drop in performance. Unless you absolutely love this feature, deactivate it. Transparency multisampling is a form of anti-aliasing which is applied only to transparent textures such as foliage or chain link fences. This works well alongside other anti-aliasing methods. Only deactivate the checkbox if using an EMB graphical preset which tells you to do so. Decal Cap appears to only affect blood decals. Set to 10. Water. Water Refractions simulates the bending of light on water surfaces and gives objects viewed beneath the surface a shimmering and distorted appearance for realism purposes. Activate the checkbox. Water Reflections toggles water reflections on or off. Activate the checkbox. Reflection Quality affects the quality of water reflections. Set to high. Soft Reflections, when activated, makes reflections more hazy and realistic. You can deactivate the checkbox to save some performance if desired. Full Scene Reflections, when activated, reflects all nearby scenery. You can deactivate the checkbox to save some performance if desired. Full Detail Reflections, when activated, better quality reflections are generated. You can deactivate the checkbox to save some performance if desired. Water Displacement generates a rippling effect when your character moves through water. Personal Preference. Activate the checkbox. Some EMB users may be informed to turn this setting off. Depth Fog affects the level of murkiness in visible fogging on the surface of water, except when underwater. This creates a much more realistic shoreline when activated opposed to when deactivated. Activate the checkbox. Water Multisampling. This is anti-aliasing for water. However, there is very little to no visual difference in the jaggedness of water regarding which option you choose, and there is a decent impact on performance even in areas where there is no water. I suggest that you set this to low. Shadows. Enable Shadows. Allows shadows to be displayed in game. Activate the checkbox. Shadow Quality determines the overall resolution of cast shadows. Set to high. Shadow Filtering controls the way in which shadow edges blend with their surroundings. Set to medium. Max Interior Shadows determines the maximum number of possible shadows when in interior locations. Set to 6. Max Exterior Locations determines the maximum number of possible shadows when in exterior locations. Set to 6. View Distance. Object Fade controls the distance at which a range of non-critical world objects such as rocks, fences, and pathways are visible. Set to 8. Actor Fade controls the distance at which characters and creatures can be seen. Set to 8. Grass Fade controls the amount and distance at which grass, shrubs, and small bushes are visible. Set to 7. Specularity Fade controls the shininess of various objects and surfaces. Set to 8. Light Fade controls the distance at which lighting is cast from dynamic sources. Set to 17. Item Fade controls the distance at which items such as weapons can be seen. Set to 8. Shadow Fade controls the distance at which shadows fade from view. Set to 10. Distant LOD. Tree LOD Fade controls the distance at which tree LOD can be seen. Set to 40. Object LOD Fade controls the distance at which major world geometry can be seen. Set to 50. Land Quality controls the quality of distant terrain. Set to 150. As with everything, the higher the values, the more potential there is for FPS to be lost. Close the Advanced window Select OK in the main Fallout 3 window, select Exit. Windows Live Disabler. If you are using Windows 7 or later, which I am sure most of us are, these additional steps will need to be performed for Fallout 3 to work. Even on earlier operating systems, these may need to be applied, but I haven't been able to test them on XP or Vista myself. Now that we have established our basic INI files in the previous section, which can be altered later via the INI files themselves if you choose to, we can disable games for Windows Live. The files that we need from it are already installed, and the software itself is only going to cause issues. Windows Live was totally shut down during the summer of 2013, and other than the files that we needed from it for Fallout 3 to work, it is completely obsolete. To download the disabler, navigate to nexusmods.com/fallout3/mods/1086. Open Files. Beneath the main Games for Windows Live Disabler file, select the Download Manually hyperlink. Open the Fallout 3 game folder, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Fallout 3, and if you have the Game of the Year option, it will be followed by GOTY. In a second window, navigate to where you downloaded the disabler to. It will be in the same location that the Windows Live download was in. Open the disabler archive. Copy the Games for Windows Live Disabler executable. Paste the executable within the Fallout 3 game folder. You can now delete the archive as you will no longer need it. Double-click the Games for Windows Live Disabler executable. At the disabler window, select Disable G4WL. At the pop-up window, select Yes, select OK, and then select Exit to exit the disabler. Fallout 3 should now be able to be launched on your operating system. Vanilla Backup. Installing Fallout 3 is time-consuming. Reinstalling Fallout 3 from an archive is a bit faster than downloading the files from Steam. Creating an unmodified backup will allow you to quickly reinstall the game if it is ever deleted for any reason. If you uninstall Fallout 3, returning the files from the archive that we are going to create to their former locations will reinstall it. However, if you are doing this on a brand new operating system, you will have to reestablish the file paths again. I would recommend only taking the time to do this if you are keeping the same operating system and you don't plan on wiping it. Navigate to Steam, Steam Apps, Common. Right-click and copy the Fallout 3 folder. Paste it to your desktop. Navigate to the operating system drive letter, Users, your user account, My Documents, My Games, and copy the Fallout 3 folder. Go to your desktop. Create a new folder, name it My Games. Paste the Fallout 3 folder inside of the new My Games folder. In the file directory bar, navigate to the C drive, Users, your user account name, app data, local, Fallout 3. If you do not have permission to access your app data folder, you will have to enable folder permissions. A link on how to do so is in the video description. Copy all of the folder's contents. Go to the desktop. Create a new folder. Name it App Data. Within App Data, create another folder. Name it Local. Create a final folder within Local and name it Fallout 3. Paste the information just copied into this new Fallout 3 folder. On your desktop, click and drag the mouse over all three new folders, Fallout 3, My Games, and App Data. Right-click and select Add to Archive. Name the archive Vanilla Fallout 3. Uninstalling Fallout 3. Navigate to Steam, Steam Apps, Common. Right-click the Fallout 3 folder, delete it. Navigate to Users, your user account, My Documents, My Games. Right-click the Fallout 3 folder, delete it. Navigate to the operating system drive letter, User, your user account name, App Data, Local. Right-click the Fallout 3 folder and delete it. Troubleshooting. If you are having issues launching Fallout 3, here are some additional steps to check out. When disabling Windows Live, if a window opens saying, "Cannot find your Fallout.ini," select OK from the window. Navigate to your Steam game library, right-click Fallout 3, and launch it. Launching the game will establish the vanilla INI files. This is why I had the INI file section placed before the disabler. At this point, navigate back to the Windows Live disabler and run it again. Assure that you have installed Fallout 3 to the drive that the main Steam directory is installed to, as mentioned earlier in the guide. For reasons unknown to me, whenever I try to install Fallout 3 to a different library, I can never get it to launch. Some may not have this issue, but it's an old game and oddities can vary from system to system. Within the Fallout 3 game folder, right-click the Fallout 3 executable, and then afterwards do this to the Fallout Launcher.exe as well. Select Properties, open the Compatibility tab, activate the checkbox for Run this program as an administrator. Select Apply, select OK. Within the Fallout 3 game folder, right-click the Fallout 3 executable, and then do this to the Fallout Launcher executable as well. Select Properties, open the Compatibility tab again, activate the checkbox for Run this program in Compatibility Mode 4. Then from the drop-down menu just beneath it, select Windows XP Service Pack 3. Apply the changes, select OK. Right-click the Fallout 3 game folder itself. Open Properties, open Security. To the right of the To Change Permissions, select Edit with the ellipsis. Within the Permissions window, next to Full Control, activate the checkbox for Allow. Select Apply, select OK. An in-depth video on user account control is linked in the description for those who want to know more about it. If you have tried any of the troubleshooting methods so far, but nothing has worked, I would recommend setting them back to how they were before you altered them. Finally, Windows 10 updates. Various updates at various times seem to stop both Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas from launching. I read where some were having this issue in July of 2016. However, those games for me worked perfectly fine. But then on September 21st of 2016, I had a Windows Auto update that stopped my games from launching. To fix this issue, I had to roll Windows back to its previous update. To do this, I had to search for Settings, Recovery, go back to an earlier build, and follow the prompts from there. After doing this, both New Vegas and Fallout 3 worked again. Due to various reports throughout 2016, this tells me that there may be updates that actually fix the past mishaps regarding our beloved games. But then, future updates could again break them. If your games work, do not install new updates to Windows unless you absolutely need them for something else. There have also been reports of various graphics drivers not working for some. For me, all of the different versions have worked just fine, but again, others have said rolling back to previous versions have helped them. I would recommend checking out the Step Wiki, particularly the Clear and Present Danger Fallout 3 Step Wiki forums. A link to them is in the video description. I'd like to thank all of you for spending some time with me and checking out this video. I know that this game is old, but I absolutely love it, and I'm happy to do an updated and as informative install and setup session as I possibly could for you folks. If you have suggestions, leave them in the comment section. If you have new information regarding drivers, Windows updates, or anything of the like, leave them in the comment section to hopefully help some folks out. But before you do, please research your information to know that you are actually giving good information out to help others. I'd like to thank Kelmich, hopefully I pronounced his name right, of the Step Wiki for creating the Clear and Present Danger Guide, for if he didn't, I wouldn't even be playing this game right now. To Grant SP, to SRB, to Oddly, and to the many other people over at the Step Wiki who have been supporting Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and all of these other older games that we all love so much. A huge thank you to Matt Canton, a new and hopefully permanent member to the GamerPoets team. He helped to write a very large portion of the text part of this tutorial. If he didn't take the time to research a lot of this and to put the effort into it, I would not have even taken the time to create this tutorial. So thank you, Matt, for allowing this to happen. And to all of you, thank you again for spending some time with me, for supporting GamerPoets, and for keeping this channel as a whole growing and continuing. And without the patrons who have been pledging on Patreon, I am not entirely sure that GamerPoets would still be making videos in 2016 and beyond. Thank you, everyone. As always, I am Michael of GamerPoets. Thank you for watching.